Hi everyone, James here from the Better Band Bureau, which you can check out at thebetterbandbureau.com or find our group on Facebook, which is facebook.com/groups/betterbandbureau. Today I want to talk about something interesting, because everyone has been captivated by the Fyre Fest documentaries that were released in the last few weeks, both by Hulu and by Netflix. And although both documentaries showed slightly different angles, the main content was the same, and it was about how Billy McFarland defrauded many investors out of millions of dollars and what the ultimate impact of the failed Fyre Festival was. Ultimately, he did some very bad things that he should not have done, and he should have known better, and I think he did know better. But I think that his intentions with the festival, at first, at least, for the fans, were nothing but the best. And I think this can be seen that he tried to build the festival, he stuck with it till the very end, and when he realized it was a complete failure, he was shaken up, according to reports from those who were there with him. So I think, yes, he did some very bad things, especially to the investors, but I truly think that he did want to have a festival for the fans. But let's not get too deep into that, because that's not what this video is about. You might remember a few months ago, there was a band called Threatin that made headlines because they had booked an entire European tour, and then no one showed up to their shows. They would get 2 or 3 people in, and that was it. And eventually the band quit, and it turned out to be an elaborate hoax. The vocalist and leader of the band, Jared Eames, who also goes by the name Threatin, had actually completely fabricated his whole presence. His record label, his publicist, his booking agent, everyone on his team was actually Jared Eames or his wife Kelsey. So what I'm here to talk about is how both these people, Jared Eames, who I'll refer to as Threatin, and Billy McFarland, failed with their endeavors, but in completely different ways. If you listen to the story of Threatin, he claims that it was not a failure and that this was how he intended things to work out, which I'll touch on that later. For now, let's just consider it a failure. They both had major issues with the events they put on. McFarland and the Fyre Festival had massive budgets for marketing, and they got people to show up, but there was no festival. All the bands had pulled out, the site wasn't ready. They were supposed to camp out in FEMA tents, of all things, when they had been promised luxury villas. That's totally false advertising. But I think it was just because he did not give himself enough time to properly plan this. The event planners were brought in just a few months in advance. It's insane. On the other hand, Threatin, he made his shows happen, but no one showed up, which might be an elaborate marketing stunt, as we'll see later. For Threatin, he did everything to get his shows booked. He put together a band and paid the musicians. He played the shows that weren't canceled, and he had no fans show up. All his social media accounts had thousands of followers, but they had been purchased. Same for any interaction that was on his networks. The approach he took was, if we build it, they will come. Well, he built it, and they didn't come. With Fyre Festival, it was the exact opposite. And obviously, Fyre Festival was on a much larger scale than Threatin, who is playing smaller venues that hold several hundred, compared to the Fyre Festival, which was going to have about 10,000 attendees. Fyre Festival was absolutely rushed. Multiple vendors had warned McFarland that they needed more time to execute the vision he had for the festival, but he refused to listen because he wanted to hear nothing but, yes, we can do this, yes, we can do this, yes, we can do this. And it was the culture of his company that you had to be a yes person to do it, and the people who raised these issues were pushed out. If he had listened to those people and postponed, it might have been successful. But, again, he might have still done some sketchy stuff, and he might have gotten caught before the rescheduled event ever happened if they had gotten down that route. From what it seems, they did not have any intent on actually running the festival until after the promo launched and they were selling tickets and they realized, this is real, people are going to show up, we have to do the festival. Any proper festival of this size would be getting things set up, logistics in place, starting initial talks for the space, how it's going to be put together, all of that. 12 to 24 months, that's 1 to 2 years before the festival is supposed to start. McFarland wanted to do this all in 4 months. That is absolutely insane. With typical festivals, when they're worked on 1 to 2 years in advance, the lineup comes out 4 to 8 months in advance. But even on the shortest end of that, the 4 months, that's how long McFarland had to plan the entire Fyre Festival. These types of things take a lot of time and money to execute properly and safely, and they just did not give themselves this time, so they had people show up, but they weren't ready. His attitude was, if they come, we will build it, which really is not smart, because he was trying to sell something that he did not yet have. Now let's get to the motivation for each of their actions. Threatin claims it was a publicity stunt and that he wanted to get the attention of playing to empty venues. And if that really is true, then it worked. Now this could be a reaction to all the press where he's just trying to save face and say, oh, I did this on purpose. Either way, he has found success and he's found the spotlight with his 15 minutes of fame by doing this. So I have to commend him for those actions, even if they were dishonest and shady. He actually pulled it together, and in the end, no one was hurt. The venues didn't seem to be too upset for the most part. They were interviewed by Polestar, which is the touring industry version of Billboard, essentially. And all the venues said, well, we didn't lose out on much. He paid us in advance. He paid the room rental. All we lost out on was bar sales. So yeah, maybe they lost a bit of money, but in the big picture, no one was majorly hurt. It all worked out in the end. On the other hand, McFarland, we can't really tell what his true intentions were. Like I said, I think he did want the music festival to happen. It just didn't work out because he was in over his head. So at best, he wanted to run a music festival. At worst, he was running a big con, especially when he started to put out fake numbers trying to get an influx of cash from Comcast and telling all the attendees that it was a cashless and cardless event and they had to load money onto the Fyre band. That's just all super sketchy. And at that point, I think he was just in way over his head, and he realized that he didn't have nearly enough money to pull this off, and he was just scrambling for money, and that's when the true fraud, the intentional fraud, started, in my opinion. But again, that's just my opinion, and in no way does that excuse his actions, because he's guilty, and he deserves everything he got out of that, which we'll get to in a second. Do I really think the two should have worked together? No way. But if they had, McFarland would bring the fans, and Threatin brings the show. It could have worked. And this just shows how live events can fail in different ways, and why there are so many different things to think of. With Threatin, leaving aside that he claims it was a marketing stunt, he didn't market the tour, and he didn't have real fans. He had fake fans and fake followers. That's why it failed. With McFarland, he didn't have the experience to put on an event, but people showed up. So if the two had combined forces, it's conceivable that Threatin's shows would have been sold out. But obviously, very different demographics. It wouldn't have worked out. This is just all in theory, and I think it's a cool idea to illustrate the different ways that any type of live event can fail. It takes a lot of time and effort to make festivals and tours happen. Entire teams of people work together for festivals like Coachella, Download, Reading and Leeds, Rock am Ring, and all the other big festivals out there. And they do it years in advance. It's just absolutely bonkers how much time and effort goes into that. And unfortunately, that's one of the reasons that festival prices are so expensive. It's not like a regular tour where they can plan it 6 to 12 months in advance. It has to be done years in advance. There are many full-time people working for the companies producing those festivals, and that's just the reality of it in 2019 and beyond. If Threatin had focused all the time and energy that he spent making these fake companies and buying fake fans, he might have had a really decent fan base. He claims that he would have had several hundred fans to maybe several thousand. But I still think that it's better to just be honest, build it naturally. If it was a publicity stunt, yeah, it's a genius move, but it kind of makes him look like a jerk. If that was his intent, it worked. So props to him for that. If McFarland had taken the advice of his vendors and the people working with him and postponed the festival and really taken the time to plan it out, it might have worked. What he did was he rushed it. He didn't want to hear no. And then eventually he turned to crime to try and fund this festival, which just not a good answer, ever. You always want to be honest. You don't want to burn bridges. You want to keep things above board, especially in the music industry, which is very tight-knit. Everyone knows each other. You have to keep things honest. Instead, he chose to run away from the issue and take a bunch of money. And then, even after the failure of the festival, he was still trying to scam people. That's what I just think is not okay. He should not have kept doing that, but it seems like he got a taste of the crime and then just wanted to keep going. And that's not okay, because then he was not trying to actually provide a service or provide a benefit. He was just taking, and that was just greed, and that's all it was. McFarland is now serving 6 years in prison, rightfully, if I may add. I think he deserves it. Threatin, like I said, claims that his tour was a massive publicity stunt. Whether it is or isn't, I don't know. No one knows for sure except Threatin himself. But he does say he's now selling massive quantities of his album, and he's rebooked at the Camden Underworld for November 1st, 2019, exactly 1 year after the tour that was so horribly attended had started there exactly 1 year earlier on November 1st, 2018. And the Camden Underworld is happy to have rebooked him. They're excited. They're looking forward to the show. And they said as long as he shows up, they'll be happy. Good for him. I'm glad he's finding success out of the failure of a tour, whether it was intentional or not. It's working out for him. We'll see what happens next, because he may or may not have major success after this. But I hope for everyone's sake that McFarland is done with business, because that's not the kind of person you want to work with. So, to wrap things up, they could have worked together. It would have solved some problems each of the other person had on face value, but when you get into it, it wouldn't have worked, because the differences in their demographic, the scale of the events, and mainly just their intent. Threatin didn't really hurt anyone. McFarland did. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it makes sense to you. I'm just trying to illustrate how events in the music industry can fail, and this is just 2 ways. There are many others. You can have an act of God, like a tornado or a flood. You can have accidents on the way. You can have injuries or death. Overall, no one was physically harmed during these events, so I'm really glad that everyone was okay. It's really terrible that people lost money on Fyre Festival, and I really feel bad for the people that happened to, but they walked away healthy, and that's really the main thing. So be glad about that. There have been way too many accidents at festivals in the last decade or so, and I really hope that that calms down. There's a great group called the Event Safety Alliance, who is working to make live music a safer place for everyone, the attendees, the performers, and the staff. So shout out to them. Last but not least, thanks again for watching, and if you want to hear more or interact, check out our Facebook group. It's facebook.com/groups/BetterBandBureau. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and have a wonderful day.